Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff Morton, the host of Let's Talk About It. This is a podcast where we really just want to talk about you. So every guest that comes onto my podcast has got a story to tell, and so I just invited them to come on here and do that. Before I bring our guest back, we're going to do a part two with Christina Hall, I really enjoyed having her on. She was infectious, effervescent. I loved her personality, but there's a lot of story behind what she shared and some of the things she's going to talk about today. I want to also mention next week's program. I'm going to have a gentleman by the name of Dan Guay on the podcast. Now, Dan he started a business that processes credit cards. He does this for a living. And I've always, for the life of me, wondered, why are we paying the charge for the credit card? You know, you go into some of these corner stores and you buy something and they say, well, it's a $35 charge if you use your debit or credit card. I don't really know how that all works, but he figured out a way to make the consumer pay for it. I believe this. If you provide a service, for the most part, I believe the consumer should pay for it. And if that means buying a tablet, or that means buying a pencil, I think those costs should be part of the service that you provide. I don't think I should have to pay for it. I think the customer should have to pay for it. I've always thought that because that's what happens with me. I go to a grocery store. They don't pay for anything. I pay for it all. So Dan figured out a way to do this. He has a company called Adaptive Payment Solutions, and we're going to have him on next weekend to talk about what he's done. This is a new business for him. I really appreciate him. He's a nice guy. He's just a great guy. And so we're going to have him on so he can explain how this all works. And he'll be joining us next week on the podcast. So that's Dan Guay, spelled Guay. And his company, there's a ticker running across the bottom. It's called Adaptive Solutions, Payment Solutions.com. I'm looking forward to having him on because, like I said, I've always wondered, why are we paying the credit card processing fee? So anyway, that's next week's show. Following weekend, I'll be in New York. I'm going to be flying home to take care of a couple of things for my sister. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do a show from New York. I'd like to do a show from New York. We'll see how that goes. And I want to just touch on something about last week's program or last week's podcast. I talked to Dr. Eggleston and Dr. Seiler about the lawsuit that they're involved in because the Washington Medical Commission is suing them because they wrote a couple of letters as retired. That was a very provocative program. I hope you can go back and look at it. Anyway, something interesting happened with me and one of the doctors. We had met before all of this happened. We had met over in Gig Harbor on Fox Island, actually. And he remembered that. I took him to lunch because he has stuff we have to talk about. And I took him to lunch on Tuesday, and lo and behold, towards the end of our time together, he's 80 years old. I think he said 80 years old. He said, I met you before. And I remember the day that we met. It happened, I had to go use the bathroom. I was over at Fox Island, and I go into a Shell station, which is kind of corner grocery store over there. And there were a group of men having a Bible study. Well, I went and did my thing, and I came back out, and I said, hey, guys, can I share something with you? Anyway, I prayed for these men sitting there, and that's what he remembered at the table. I had no memory. I didn't even recognize him sitting there. But it was interesting after the show we did, then the lunch, and then to find out we had met previously. I think he was one of the gentlemen that came and shook my hand. Anyway, I kind of threw a water hose at him, fire hose. He sent me a text message saying, whoa, you kind of blew me away. Those guys need a little bit of prayer. So for Dr. Eggleston and Dr. Seiler, keep them in your prayers. Watch the last week's show if you get a chance to do that. You can do all of that on my YouTube page. You can see all the stuff on my Rumble page, my blog page. I have all the shows. They're cataloged over there. You can go there too. Just send me an email. My email is going to pop up on the screen throughout this here broadcast. And I'm still looking for the right person to come along and help me do a few things with the podcast. So if you're interested in helping me, send me an email, and I'd love to talk to you, okay? I'm always looking for sponsors, and I'm always looking for people who have a brand that they would like to showcase on the podcast. give me a call. Let's talk about it. Okay. So last week I had Christina Hall on the program, 2 weeks ago, and it was very interesting. So I'm going to bring her back. I wanted her to do a part 2 because she's got a lot more to talk about. So Christina, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you back.
Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.
Okay,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So for the folks who missed the program, the podcast that you wanted for, just spend a couple minutes talking about what we talked about at that time in your history and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, for sure. Please go back and watch the whole thing because I'm trying to do a quick recap, but please go back and watch it. But really talking about how, where I grew up, because I'm from Germany and experienced a lot of things with health issues, autoimmune issues, chronic pain issues, struggling for 20 years and how it really impacted my life, not just health-wise and physical, but also how I was like a shell of a person because I was not me anymore. I was this introverted, shy something that cried about everything because I felt so insecure and not confident. I didn't have any self-worth. And how literally everything changed once I addressed my health. And once I once I met the love of my life, we talked a little bit about that and my story there, because it's very unconventional, not something that I feel like there were a lot of coincidences that took place at the same time for us to meet, and how I came to the US. And from there, I feel like everything's history. It's been like 15 years now that I've been here, and 10 years now that I actually overcame my chronic health issues and became a mom, because I was told that I would never be able to be a mom. And now I have 2 beautiful, healthy girls, and yeah, really enjoying life. But that's pretty much like a big summary of all the things we talked about. And I know we're going to go deeper into a lot of things today.
Well, let's talk about that, because you were told you couldn't have kids. You've been married to a wonderful person. Military boy brought you to the States. It was a very interesting story. And but it continues because you still had to overcome. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the medical issues? Because we didn't really talk about that last time, other than the fact that you ended up having 2 kids and you changed your life and everything turned wonderful, and everything's not always wonderful, but you overcame a lot. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can share it. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto. So that's an autoimmune issue of your thyroid. And pretty much your thyroid with its hormones controls everything in your body. Like everything is impacted by it to some degree. So I was struggling with everything that you can think of. I constantly got sick. I had skin that was really dry and broke out constantly. I had digestive issues. I was barely in my 20s, and I was on all the things that you can imagine. I went to, I think, 3 different gastroenterologist specialists all over the country, in Texas and Virginia, to figure out what's wrong with me. And pretty much everybody always like shrugged their hand and said, there's nothing really wrong. Like we can't find anything. But I had all these symptoms. Like I was not me. Like I had migraines, like as clockwork. Every weekend I had a migraine. No matter what I did. And it just added on. Like it was to the point where I would always be on antibiotics. I would always get the hardcore drugs, right? Because they didn't even know what to do anymore with me. And it was at the point where they told me, like, if that doesn't work, then good luck. We don't have anything else to help you. I had, for like, I think in my teens, from like 11 to like 16 at least, I had whooping cough to the point where I could barely breathe. I was throwing left and right. And it was just like the doctors couldn't help. Like I don't think I've ever felt that sick in my life. And it's when you cannot breathe and there's nothing like somebody can do, and you don't know if you're going to get better. And it's tough to like, how do you go from there? And I always ask the question, like any doctor that I met after, I became more aware and I got older, I always asked everybody, what can I do? Is there anything that I can do? Is there something that I need to change? Anything that I should not eat or should do more of? And I never got an answer. Like I always got looked at with like, there's nothing you can do. No matter what you eat, it doesn't matter. And that was really frustrating. That was, I think we talked about last time, that when I was in Texas, I was diagnosed with vitamin D deficiency. And I mean, that should be an easy state where you're not vitamin D deficient. And that's because it's not just your body is a masterpiece, first of all, but it's working synergistically. And if one thing is low, it's because there's something else missing in your body. It cannot produce it because it doesn't have the other player that it needs. And it's the same thing with when you're diagnosed, like what I found out way later with my thyroid, that I always went to the endocrinologist and they always looked at my thyroid. They didn't look at anything else, what was going on in my body. They didn't put they didn't make any connections. They didn't put any dots together for me. Like they never asked me what I ate, how my stress levels were, if my sleep was good, nothing like that. They always just focused on one piece and never on anything else. And I think that's something that I'm very, very passionate about, and always tell everyone, you need to look at your whole body and you need to understand and get to know it, because it's showing you all the signs. And when I hear people talk about, I was fine, I was healthy, and then all of a sudden now my cholesterol is high, or I got high blood pressure or whatever else. I'm like, it's not all of a sudden. It's because you ignored all these other signs that we are being told are normal as we're getting older, but they're not normal. And that's what I want to not make more obvious, but get more attention towards it, that we are in control of our body, and there's nobody else from the outside that can tell us how we feel or how we're supposed to feel. Because that's another thing that I always heard is in when I went to the endocrinologist, they're like, yeah, you should feel XYZ based on what we see. And I'm like, but I'm not feeling that. So what now? You cannot just treat me as a number. You cannot treat me as a statistic if you don't. I'm here in person. Like, talk to me, help me figure this out. And I actually had one endocrinologist, and that was early in my journey as I'm researching and finding out all these things, like how everything's connected, and trying different things on my own, that I asked him the same question again. I'm like, what can I do? Like, help me to get off of these pills. Like, I don't want to take them anymore. I don't want to take them for the rest of my life. What can I do? And he literally looks at me and he's like, there's nothing that you can do. You will have to take these pills for the rest of your life. And I'm like, but you're a doctor. You should get me off of them, not, keep me on them. And
not in this pharmaceutical driven world.
Yeah.
That's income.
It is. And that's what I want people to think about. And while you say that income, can I share two stories that have something to do with all of this? Like, one is my first birth story, and I won't get into too much detail. Don't worry about it.
No, please go ahead.
I want you to understand. There's a book, I don't have it handy, but it's called Hypnotherapy. For anybody, any woman that is pregnant, wants to become pregnant. If you know a woman that wants to become pregnant, is pregnant right now, wants to have kids, whatever, everybody should read this book, especially the first 5 chapters, because it talks about how having babies is a money-making machine. There are so many misconceptions how we're treating pregnancy and pregnant women. It's insane. But But to cut to the chase, like I was pregnant with my first kid, and we can talk about it, how I actually got to this. But the story is actually...
I can pretty much figure out how you got pregnant.
Yeah, no, no, that sorry, that's not... I meant like from being told that I can't have kids, right?
I had to throw that in there. You walked right
in. Not for everybody else, right?
Right.
Anyways, thanks. I had my last check. It was like around 38 weeks. It was a military hospital. You had to go through the military. That's, the insurance we had and all the things. And I'm a tiny person. I'm 5'5". I'm 115 pounds about, and I gained 50 pounds in that pregnancy. And for the medical system, that is a lot. To them, it's a lot. For me, it's like, it's fine. Like I didn't feel bad, right? I never had any of the typical pregnancy issues and pains and all things. But they thought it was bad. And I was already, so it was an hour drive for me to get there. And then I had to go on a half an hour back to work because of course you have to work until the day you give birth. At least that job that I had, I didn't have any insurance or any medical leave or anything like that. And so I was stressed out, and I, also becoming a first-time mom. Like, I don't know, it was very stressful not having family here. And so I drive there an hour. Luckily, my husband came with me. I made him that time, and he's like, they do the normal checkups, the blood pressure, and they see that my blood pressure is elevated, and it's elevated 132 or something, and it was close to 80, the bottom number. And they are freaking out, right? But they are not sharing anything. And they don't share any of the details, why this is important or what's going on or anything. They just tell me right then and there, you're going to have this baby right now. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't. I am not ready. I will not have this baby. And that was 8 o'clock in the morning. I got the first appointment, 8 o'clock in the morning. They wouldn't let us leave. I think there were different, mind you, we had nothing with me. Our dog was still in our house. We had nothing prepared. And they said, well, we have to get you up to what is it called? Labor and delivery, and to check. And we're like, okay, we're going to go up and we're going to get monitored, but we're not doing anything else. We agreed to that. And then in there were another, I think 3 nurses, 2 different doctors, 2 different midwives that literally told us from around 9 in the morning until like 3 p.m. in the afternoon that we're so stupid, basically, how we need to get this baby out now. We need to induce you, probably going to end up having a C-section. You're killing your baby. You're killing yourself. They talked to my husband separately saying, you're killing your wife, you're killing your baby. They never explained anything what was going on. Mind you, I was feeling fine. The baby was feeling fine. There was nothing crazy going on. And we hadn't eaten. We had nothing. We were just like crying and didn't know what to do. And then finally we were like, no, we're signing on whatever that form is to leave the hospital. We need to get our bag and all the things and take care of our dog. And we need to eat. And we'll come back later. And we finally left the hospital. We came back the same night, just because we still not knowing like medical stuff. And we were like a little bit intimidated. But we were like, no, we're standing our ground, and we're just going to continue with what we believe and how we feel. And luckily, I also had a doula that I talked to. It's very helpful. I can only highly encourage everybody to get one. And she talked us through it. But you have to, once we got back to the hospital, we then still got, what's a good word? Like, talked to by everybody under the sun and told that
Pressure.
We're going to induce you. Yeah, pushed force, like it was bad. And we were still standing our ground, right?
What, Christina, what is a doula?
A doula it's not like a midwife, but it's a birth helper, a woman that is supporting the woman, but also the husband.
I've never heard
during
that.
birth.
Never heard that word before. Okay, so
it's very old traditional, and luckily it's coming back, and I highly, again, it's the best thing that you can do. I promise you.
So you were being pressured from just about everybody
under the sun. That it came down to the midwife was telling us we agreed that we were gonna get monitored for a day, and if everything was fine, we'll figure it out day by day, but we're not rushing into anything. And so we got monitored the next day. Everything was fine. I felt fine. I had Braxton Hicks contractions. I don't know. I didn't feel anything. I just saw it on a monitor. And still that day at night, they came into our room until like 11:30 at night. And another midwife came at like 10, and she again tried to pressure me, like, we need to induce now. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have a good night's sleep. Like, I'm not having a baby right now when I've, been miserable all day because of you guys telling me how bad of a mother I'm already am, even though I don't have a baby yet outside in this world. And anyways, and she told us also that we will not have this naturally. There is no way. You're a first-time mom. This is happening with high blood pressure and stuff and whatever. So the night comes, and they're telling us, like, no matter what we do, like if we're not leaving the hospital, they're gonna force us to get this baby out one way or another. So I had a little. I prayed that night, and I was like, you need to help me here. Like, I can't believe that this is happening. Like, what I want, how it should be. Let's make this. I'll work with you, right? We'll work together. And lo and behold, I woke up at like 5 a.m, and I had this terrible pain. And I looked at the monitor, but the monitor was not doing anything anymore. It was like a flat line, and I'm like, oh gosh, something is really wrong. But I managed, because I have a high pain tolerance. So until like 6:30, my husband just slept for like 4 hours. I'm like, I'm going to let him sleep a little longer. And at 6:30, I'm like, okay, I can't do it anymore. It took another hour because it was the shift change with the nurses. And, since we stood our ground, nobody really wanted to come into our room. I firmly believe so, because we had kind of a yelling argument during the night, because they still kept coming into our room constantly. And anyways, so we finally a nurse came in, new nurse, didn't know anything, 7:30. And she said, yeah, you have contractions. Like, the monitor slipped off like while I was sleeping. So I wasn't in the right spot anymore. And I had a contraction. I was in labor pretty much. And they were still like, you're a first-time mom. Nothing's going to happen. You have like the whole day. Like, we're fine. That was at 7:30. I had the baby at 11:05. And they were not ready. They literally told my husband, can you tell your wife to not push? And he's like, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. And I don't know that. I just know it from other people telling me, right, that there were like 3 nurses that were talking about who's going to catch the baby. Because, with the medical stuff, only certain people can do it. And if you've never done it, it's a liability or whatever. But anyways, what I want to share with you is that just because they're telling you something, listen to your body. Think about all the things that are going on. Ask the questions, like, what is the worst that can happen? What can I do? Can I monitor? Can I talk to somebody else? Can I get a different opinion? All of the things, so important, because how many moms do you know that had the worst experience? And also, because I was monitored and because I was at risk, because what they thought, I was not allowed to go anywhere out of bed. And I was only supposed to labor on my back, which is the worst thing you can do. They don't want you to do that, because that is their higher rate that they can get a C-section out of you if you do that, because you're just gonna give up, because that's the worst pain, because it just doesn't work. Like, logically, it's not the right position. Anyways, but because of the whole induction, like they told us to be induced, and you induce pregnant or labor with Pitocin. And they told my husband after delivery and everything that I had lost a lot of blood and was hemorrhaging and all the thing. They need to give me Pitocin because it also works to to stop that. So he, of course, he didn't know anything. I was out, I just had a kid, and was in that hormonal space, and was like, yeah, whatever. They gave it to me, and I passed out. My blood pressure dove down to 60/90 barely. I couldn't see. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hold my baby or feed my baby for the next 4 hours. I was wrapped in blankets over blankets because I was freezing. I was shaking. And I remember a good friend, she was waiting outside of the hospital room, and she was like, when she heard like babies here and everything, she wanted to come in, and she opened the door and she saw me and my husband, and he was like, he talked to her for a little bit, and she was like afterwards, I thought you were gonna die. Like, you looked awful. And to this day, I got the medical report after this. I read through all of it, and nowhere in this medical report was stated that I needed the Pitocin. They just gave it to me because they had it. They already had it, billed to me. So
they could charge you for it.
Yeah.
That's basically, they could charge you. That's why they gave it to you.
Yeah. And I'm like, I could have died because of you people. And back then I didn't go any further. I did somewhat digging into the hospital and stuff, but it's just, I don't want anyone to have that experience just because somebody thought they needed to give you something and didn't think to go through like all the options, right? And also, I want you to know, like, do your own research, do you understand your rights, and always ask questions, always get a second opinion.
Can I interject something here?
Yes.
With the amount of people that took the COVID shot without knowing what was being injected into their body, most people, unfortunately, don't ask those questions. They just listen to the doctor and they go, okay. And in your case, there was no reason for you to even have that medication, but because it was billed, you got it and damn near killed you.
Yeah.
And I sit here and I think about, I talked to these doctors last week, off the record. The amount of people that have died from the COVID stuff is just crazy, and we're not being told about it. But and I want to throw that in there because I've learned something about the medical community when it's controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. And so it's a good thing that people ask questions and, get a little information. I think everybody should research something, especially when they're talking about putting it in your body. So anyway, you ended up having the baby. We're gonna get back on here.
Yeah.
Now, how old is this daughter today?
She is 9, almost 10 years old.
So we're talking 10 years ago. You went through this hell.
Yeah.
Was this a military hospital?
Yes.
Was it in Texas? Did you say?
It was in Virginia.
Okay. All right. So anyway, you survived.
I survived, and the baby. That's another thing, and then the whole other thing goes on with, and I won't go in too deep into this because I know there's a heated discussion. There's a lot of that goes in, but as soon as the baby gets here, they inject it with all the things that are just crazy to me, and that's another thing that I luckily researched before I had her. And asked a lot of questions. And that's the other thing that I really want to get out there. Whatever the medical solution is, that whatever you think you need to prevent, I would highly, highly recommend do your research, and don't get the research from your doctor. Get the research, and I specifically talk about shots, any type of shots, the inserts, the manufacturer inserts, and you can find them all online. And then research and look at all of the ingredients that are in there, and then decide if it's worth it, because everything that is something, my research, at least what I did is, do I need it, or is there another way that I can prevent it, or then help to heal it, cure it in some shape or form? And that's how I make my decision.
But they automatically inject the baby.
Yeah, you have to have like a form to tell specifically, like in your birth plan, I don't want anything. So
that's another whole show. You know that, right?
there's a lot. Yes,
I understand. Okay, so go ahead, continue.
Where was I? Like, yeah, the kids. I do have another medical story.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
That is a little. Again, I had an appendix that was close to bursting, and needed to take care of. And it should be a really quick surgery. You in and out pretty much, 2 days max in the hospital. Really not that invasive anymore. But I got there Friday night. Saturday morning was the surgery, and it's a lot of pain. If you don't have that pain, I'm so happy for you, because that is excruciating pain, worse than labor in my opinion. But after the surgery, I was still in pain, as much as in pain as I was before the surgery. I was like, this is not right. And of course, in the hospital, they're just like, oh yeah, give you antibiotics and pain pills, and then it's fine. And I'm like, I don't want pain pills, because if I'm in pain, there's something wrong. Like, I want to get the issue treated, not just numb it. And I couldn't eat. I could barely drink anything. I lost like 10 pounds or something within a matter of days. I was like, this is not right. And that went on from Saturday after the surgery until like Tuesday. But don't mind you, I'm loud at this point. I am talking to nurses. I am talking to people. I'm calling the head nurse of the area. I'm calling the hospital advisor and healthcare, whatever they're called, and talking to them. I'm like, I need to talk to a doctor. I need to have somebody examine my pain that I'm experiencing. Nobody would examine it. I asked for a CT. I asked for a ultrasound. Nothing. Until I think Wednesday morning. I finally got through to another doctor that was on call, and he came in, and he was really cocky when he came in, and he looked at me and he examined everything, and he's like, yeah, he can't do, he doesn't see anything because the incisions were great, but I was in pain in my stomach. And he's like, well, there's nothing wrong, but I guess we can do a CT just to whatever, shut you up, right? And I'm like, finally. And they do the CT or whatever scan, and they see this huge abscess, like literally this thick in my stomach, that I now have to have another, not surgery, but, to drain it and everything, another incision done, and have to sign another 10,000 papers because where it was at, it was risky, and all the things. And I'm like, it cost me 2 weeks of my life. And again, I couldn't eat. Like, I was losing weight left and right. I was pumped up with antibiotics because, of course, they had to give that to you, which is not great for your body. And I was not with my family. I lost time in my job. And I felt like, again, I was dying. And I was in a hospital with a routine surgery that, if you just listen to me, that I was still in pain. I'm not just somebody that says it to get more drugs. I don't want your drugs. Like, I refused them. And what I found out afterwards is because of me refusing the pain pills, that they didn't listen. They ignored me because I was refusing it. And they said, like, well, it can't help you. You're in pain. Deal with it. And then after that was confirmed, that second doctor came in again and said, sat down across from me, and I remember it until it was yesterday. Like, he's like, well, I guess you were right. And I guess you're one of those people that knows her body, huh? And I'm like, yeah. Why is that surprising to you? Why is that such a big deal? Like, everybody should know that. Everybody should have a voice and should speak up and dare to do that. Because otherwise you can have a lot of other things, and not just because somebody, I'm not saying that the first doctor was bad, but things happen, and just speak up. I cannot say that louder, because others, they do their job and they're very busy, they're overworked, they have a lot of people, they have a lot of regulations. You have to speak up for yourself and call this out, because they don't know.
So what did they end up doing to get rid of the abscess?
I had to have a drain inserted. So it was down near my bladder, but it had to be inserted through my back. And I had to have that for another week and a half. And I had to go to another doctor to get it, made sure that everything's strained. And I had to do that at home because they don't keep you. And I had to do it myself.
So what caused the abscess,
No, they never said anything. And
how long after your first child did you have to go through this?
4 years afterwards.
And your other daughter is how old?
She wasn't here yet.
She wasn't here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got about 20 minutes left in the program. So you've had some bad experiences, but also I want to get back to the fact that here you were, this young girl from Germany. You came over here with all kinds of medical issues. You ended up having a baby. They told you weren't going to have a baby. You had all these sicknesses with your thyroid. How did you get beyond that?
Yes. I did what I learned in 2013, actually. Well, 2014, and it was right around the year. What is called to reset your metabolism. Because all of that goes back to whatever you have is because of there are a few trendy things going around, like you should support your immune system. Yes, definitely. You should support your gut health. Yes, definitely. But if your metabolism, your metabolic health is not in order, then none of that will help, because it's a whole body. It's not just your digestive issue, digestive tract, or it's not just your immune system. It's everything that is imbalanced. It's not in balance anymore. And that's what I did. I reset my metabolism, and that's really holistically. And you can show my picture maybe of how I looked before compared to now. And that was in my prime years of my mid-20s, might I add. So I should look, happy, healthy, vibrant. And I feel like I look like I'm in a mugshot. And that's what it felt like. I was like, it's almost like a fog, and you're just seeing through it, and you want to be different and you want to be vibrant and energetic, but you just can't, because you're behind it and it's holding you back.
Before you go any further, because I'm really, really, really big in holistic healthcare, and I just watched a movie called Introduction to Homeopathy, or Homeopathic, and I'm like, it's another way of going back to original medicine, and dealing with the whole body, not just, I stubbed my toe and now I got to go in and have surgery on my toe, and I got an infection and all these. It's the whole thing, but doctors don't look at that in the Western world. They look at, this is the issue, here's the medication, let's cut it out.
Yep.
But the other thing, which has helped people for millennium, which I call the original form of medicine, is where we're going now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go.
It's literally, so what you have to understand is the system that people don't know about, and it's going back it all goes back to, what are they called? Bouchon and Pasteur. back in the day, some hundreds of years ago, when Pasteur said it's a germ theory, you have to get rid of the germ, whereas Bouchon said that you have to clean your system, and then no matter what germ comes to you, it doesn't matter because your system can clean it out. It's like a natural process. It's like when you think about a fish tank with a fish in it, and if you don't clean it, it gets cloudy and dirty and all the things. And if you just put another tablet in or another shot in that just makes the fish healthier to be able to
live
in that water
environment.
In that environment, whereas you should just clean out the water. The fish doesn't have to worry about all the shots and the pills and take all these other things, and that's pretty much like with the metabolic health. And it's crazy. I have to hold up a book. Can I hold up a book that that everybody should read? I don't know.
Go ahead. It's hard to see.
Yeah, it's called
Put it by your face. There it is. Good Energy.
Good Energy. By
Casey Means MD.
Yeah. 88% of the population is metabolically unhealthy. 88%. And a lot of, they're like only 5% or something like that of our diseases that are caused genetically. And even genetically, when I learn about that, I mean, it's mind blowing, and I can barely wrap my mind around it. But you can alter the genes because there are switches on your genetic material, on and off switches. And depending on how you fuel your body and how you help your body to detox, to nourish it, protect it, the switches are on or off. And it's in your control to do that. It's in everybody's control. And it's not about, don't get me wrong, guys, I'm not like the freaking health nut. I sit in front of a computer all day long. I love my chocolate. I'm German after all. And I love my carbs. I love my bread. There's a bakery in Germany at every corner. I love that. It's not about having to give that up, but it's about knowing what fuels your body and what your body needs. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know is that there are 47 essential nutrients that your body every day needs. That's like vitamins, minerals, trace elements, omegas, fatty acids, proteins. And I feel I'm forgetting something, but they are all listed. Like if anybody wants that, they can message me. I'll send them the exact list. But all of these play together synergistically. So for example, my example with the vitamin D, right? When I was deficient, that's great that they analyzed that I'm deficient in that. But if I just now supplement with vitamin D, I bombard my body with that, but it probably can't do anything with it because something else is already missing, that it got to the point that my body couldn't take the sunlight anymore to produce the vitamin D. There was something else missing. And that's what is missing, I feel like, when we talk about health, when we talk about preventive health, when we talk about getting back to growing older and not have to have joint pain or have to be scared about all these generational diseases, because they ran in my family too. I've everything that you can imagine, from diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, Alzheimer's, dementia. I have it all. But that's what I'm doing to prevent that I'm the generation that breaks that curse, that breaks that cycle, because I know the points that need to be taken care of. And for me, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not the health nut. I can't do like the miracle morning routine for an hour or two. I'm a mom. I don't have the time for that. I cannot like revamp my whole eating behavior. Again, I have 2 kids. I have a husband. I cannot just change all of the things. And even then, it's not enough anymore. I cannot like wrap myself in a bubble and never go out again, or never sit in front of a computer again, or I don't know what environmental toxins are out there. Are the toxins in our clothes and in our skincare and how we wash everything? Like, it's everywhere. It's just not, we cannot avoid it, but we can help our body to not be affected by it, or at least not as much, so that we don't get sick. We don't get to the point where we suffer like a lot of other people are, like my grandparents and my parents are, and that's all I want. That's what I want to show people what to do. And maybe we can run some of the other pictures that I shared.
I was going to ask you, these are people that you've helped.
Yeah.
And you didn't tell them they got to jump in their shorts and run around the block 70 times.
No.
You didn't tell them that they had to grab a Peloton and run in their bedroom. You didn't tell them. I mean, how did you, when you say metabolic?
Yeah.
How did you, for this gentleman here, he's lost a lot of weight. I need to be in that lane right there. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But tell his story. Who is this person? I don't know.
This is an entrepreneur. He has like a construction firm in Germany, and very busy, very all over the place, has a family he needs to support, lots of stress. Who is not stressed these days about, there's so many stressors that we're attacked with every day, like from everywhere. And he wasn't eating well either, and he didn't know how to eat. Who knows how to eat healthy? Because a few years ago, eggs are good. Now they're bad. Now they're good again. We should eat meat. No, we shouldn't eat meat. No, we shouldn't eat carbs. Yes, we should eat good carbs. All these things, right? And if you look at the food pyramid, it's like, it's all over the place. Like, don't look at it. It just doesn't work.
I agree with you on that. I think the food pyramid was created in order to produce wealth for companies that produce it. I'm there with you on that. Now, anyway, so what did you do with this gentleman? Because we got a few of these pictures we're going to move through.
Yes.
In the remaining time that we have. We have about 13 minutes left.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking so much. There's so much I want to unpack. But yeah, this is not, the metabolically healthy is not, and there are a lot of pictures that you see that they lost weight, but it's not about losing weight. I don't want to have like a bad body image here. Like, you have to be healthy in your body, and that comes in all sizes. But what you have to know is that when you have a lot of weight, extra weight that you carry around that you don't like, that you're not happy with, and an extra body fat, I would say, more than weight, it's, our body is smart, and our body creates, if we're really toxic, and that's the other system that is in combination with metabolic health, is what you have to know about is the pH system in your body. Mm-hmm. And the pH system regulates of how your body detoxes and if your body can take in the right nutrient to be in balance. It's not about the blood pH level. It's about the whole body pH.
It's about, are you alkaline or acidic?
Yes. And you have to have a good combination. So in the morning, for anybody, real quick, this, you can get that on Amazon, anywhere. It's a pH test strip. Like, literally, you can just, you pee on it. It's like a little strip, and then you have here the numbers.
Right.
In the morning, you should be acidic because it's your body saying that you can detox. That's great. Your body is still able, your kidneys, your liver, your digestive tract, all of that is working and getting rid of all the toxins, so they're not stored in your body. But with people that have added body fat, that fat is there to store those toxins because your body thinks it cannot get rid of it. If it did, it would overload your body and you would get sick in other ways. And that's why it's storing that. And that's why you also have to be careful on how you lose the weight, because if you do a diet and then just lose a lot of weight, there are a lot of people, if you look at it, that lose weight fast or a lot of weight, they look sick because their body is overloaded with toxins because they're now have to go somewhere else. So that's important that you have a good system of how you can detox that and get rid of them without hurting yourself. And then where was it going? And then with the other thing during the day, so you can measure your pH in the morning to see if you're detoxing or not. And then you would also do it at night and see if you're alkaline. And that means that you're actually eating good food and that your body can also absorb that. It's taking on in that good nutrition and works with it. If you're like acidic at night, then it means that you're either not getting good enough nutrition or your body is not able to absorb it and you need to support it in other ways. But that's pretty much what I did with these people. Most of them, there are a couple pictures that did extra sport, but most of them didn't do any sports. And they did that program. It's 21 days and it shows you how to eat. It again helps you to eat healthy. And it's actually everything. There are meal plans with actual food. It's not packaged food or anything like that. It's actual food, but it's training. It's teaching you again what is good for your body.
Can we, Carol, can we put those pictures? I'm going to go through these pictures real quickly. Just kind of, here, I want to put this back up. Can you go through what you're doing is basically helping these people to get metabolically balanced.
Yes, I love that.
Is this your program or is this something that you incorporate into encouraging these folks?
I incorporate it. It's based. It goes back to a medical professional back in Germany. That's how I got into it. That's how I learned about it. And there are thousands of people that are now have done it. And the cool thing is they're not bouncing back because now they have all the tools. And it's pretty much it's a meal plan and it's specific nutrition that they can fill up on. Again, it's 21 days. This guy is 63 years old, and that he does work out, but this body from the first picture, and you can see it's cut off, but is within 3 weeks.
Really?
At 63 years old, and he doesn't take any medication or anything like that at all. And he's a corporate speaker and all of the things. Like he's very busy still. You pretty much get a 6-pack in like 3 weeks. Because it takes away the body fat. And the cool thing is too, like it's not a diet, it's like a reset of your body. That you don't lose muscle. That's another thing. Like if you want to lose weight, you have to understand too, like especially with a lot of diets, to not lose muscle because you need muscle. It's so important in your body. Mm-hmm. This lady, like the picture on the left, top left, mm-hmm. and then bottom right, like she cut off years of her life. Like her biological age she's aging backwards.
Yeah, she looks great.
Yeah, so that's what I love doing.
We've got one more picture here.
Yeah,
of this gentleman.
It's not about radical changes. It's about understanding what your body needs, and it's not about being overwhelming, but it's easily incorporated into your life, especially with busy people. Students, it doesn't matter what your age is, students, corporate trainers, moms, it can be incorporated in anybody's life. And that's what I love. And that's what I stand for, stress-free and easy and simple, because I need it simple. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it.
So having gone through this, you've known all of these people and encouraged them in one way or another, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back to Christina.
Yes.
Your life, I mean, obviously we grow older, we get a little bit more wisdom. Life goes on. We have kids. That's always challenging. You got a great husband. But from the little girl who was shut down to this person that's been on my podcast now twice, what did you do to help you?
To help me? Literally, I think I said it the last time too, but the first thing is I took care of myself, of my health. I took matters. I learned who I was. I learned what my body needed. I learned to listen to my body and did a lot of personal development. Because when you're in that state of where you're in pain, where you're struggling, it's easy to think negative thoughts. It's easy to think everything's against you. Life is against you. Why is it happening to me? Right? But it always comes back to, and that's what I did, a lot of affirmations, a lot of mindset work, but it only came after I got my health back on track because I had the energy to do it. I feel like if I had done it the other way around, it would have been trying to roll a boulder up a hill, instead of rolling it down afterwards. It's so much easier.
There's an entire industry out here that is making a whole lot of money off of the way people think, as opposed to, it's kind of like there's an industry that was born because of the way we think about ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we go out and we either medicate ourselves or we overeat. But you changed the way you thought about all of this. You did the affirmations. You stood in the mirror. You saw your best friend. You ended up married. You ended up with 2 beautiful girls. And now you're kind of committed to helping people. You really don't want, you mentioned you didn't want a podcast. You don't want to, it's too much. And I kind of respect that because I know how much it is. But you still help people.
Yeah.
And now how do people contact you? Just through your email? You don't have a website?
I don't have I have landing pages, but I don't have a website. Email is best. You can find me on social media, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Just put in Christina Joy Fuel Life, as you see on the screen. Fuel, it's fueled. Your life should be fueled by joy.
Right. Wow,
and
that's cool.
Yep,
I love that.
That's where you can find me.
So now, how can this help me? Because I'm really am trying to get rid of the diabetes. I'm doing the gym thing. I'm eating better, but and I the positive affirmations. I'm doing a lot of those things now. Whereas before, it's like the doctors would all. You mentioned something. I want to go back to this. I've had my doctor now for a couple of years, and he says, "Oh, it's just part of growing older."
Yep.
And I don't want to be told that.
It doesn't have to be.
I don't want to be told, oh, you're 65 years old. This is a natural progress to your death. And I'm going, how are you going to sit here and tell somebody that?
Yeah.
He didn't say that. He didn't say it exactly that way. But your system and what you're talking about, it really has to do with mental awareness and then getting your metabolic body in balance.
Yeah.
You might be able to help me with that. So we're going to have to talk. I'll send you an email, okay? Because I'm curious now to know a little bit more about the meal plans. Because there's a young lady that I met at one of the meetings that I go to. She does this too. I just couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford what what she charges. But she's had some great success with a bunch of people. I actually had her on the podcast.
Awesome.
But I kind of really like the way that you've said these things, because we're being told this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. Well, really, you just have to listen to your body. I had a lady tell me once. She said, if your body wants fish, if you're listening to it, it'll tell you it wants fish.
Yes, it is so true. I cannot agree more to that. And I want to say this. Simple. It needs to be simple. I needed it to be affordable. I needed to be sustainable because otherwise it doesn't matter. Everybody can get a short-term something. And that's not what we should look for anything flashy. Run if it's flashy. That's coming from someone from the advertising industry. But really sustainable and getting back to the roots. And nothing like radical. I don't believe in radical changes because, again, it's not sustainable. I improve because I procrastinate. And if it's not something that I can do that I want to do every day, then I'm not going to do it. And then it's not worth it.
Before we end the show, and we're just got we're really right up on time. How are you doing with Hashimoto's? Did you say goodbye to him?
I said goodbye. I'm 9 years, going on 10 years. Oh my gosh, pain and symptom free and no more Hashimoto's.
So when people who knew you growing up in Germany, obviously you don't live there anymore, but they don't know, do they know this person now?
No, they don't.
They don't. So when you get the chance to go home, they go, wow, what happened to her? She's not the same person.
No, I have a friend that I went to high school with and barely was friends there. And we reconnected about 6 or 7 years ago. And she's like,
who are you?
Wow, that's really cool.
I am me. I am the one I should have been. I've always been me. It's always been in there, So.
Well, Christina Hall, I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna, if you can, just because we're after the time, but if you were to say a final word to the people that are going to watch this, perhaps, what would that be? And we'll let you close out the show.
Oh my God, what I would say is trust yourself, and you have the control. Believe that you always have the control, no matter what others say, no matter what the circumstances are, you do.
Well, there you go, folks. This is Christina Hall, Joy Fuel Life. Thank you for coming back during part 2. I really appreciate you. I'd love to actually meet you. We have to meet.
Yes, we'll do.
And get to, you're local. So let's figure that out. Okay.
For sure. I would love that.
There you go, folks. We're going to have Dan Guay on next week to talk about how your customer can pay for your processing fees on your debit and credit cards. And he'll explain all that next week. Thank you so much, Christina, once again. And we're out, guys. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.